Hi guys. I just want to shout out before I get into the video, the Bald Adonis. I'm wearing his t-shirt here. The guy, I'll link you to his YouTube channel in the comment section of this video. Check out his channel. He's a very generous guy. He sent me this t-shirt. Nice Bald Adonis logo on it. 5XL for free. I offered to pay him, but he sent it all the way from Massachusetts, the greater Boston area, all the way to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada for free. I offered to pay him, but he's such a nice guy that he didn't want to accept any payment for it. I will, in the future, think of sending him a gift, maybe even a Mr. Tanamount t-shirt or an Odd Lifting t-shirt or something like that. So he's a very nice guy. I'll link you to his channel in the comment section of this video. So check out the Bald Adonis' channel from the link I put in the comment section. Hit like in all his videos and watch all his videos and subscribe to his channel. Okay, so this video here is about my runner-up for Hip Hop Album of the Year. And my runner-up for Hip Hop Album of the Year is K-Rino's Mightier Than the Sword. So last year I did two runners-up for Album of the Year for 2017. This year I'm only going to do one to narrow it down. And the next video I do will be my personal choice for Hip Hop Album of the Year for 2018. So my runner-up is Mightier Than the Sword by K-Rino. Mightier Than the Sword by K-Rino. Also in the comment section, I'll link you to the iTunes and Apple Music link so you can buy the album Mightier Than the Sword. The K-Rino album, Mightier Than the Sword. About the album, it's not a far departure from what K-Rino has done previously in his music. It holds up well with the rest of his work, and it's a well-rounded album. It has storytelling songs, political material. It has kind of metaphysical, supernatural themed songs. It has kind of street-themed lyrics on it. As I mentioned, storytelling. It has songs that are just kind of show-off songs, showing off his multi-syllabic wordplay, his punchlines, his metaphors and similes, and his lyricism in general. So, Mightier Than the Sword by K-Rino is definitely an album I recommend you guys to buy, be it in digital format like on iTunes or from K-Rino's website, which I'll link you to K-Rino's website where you could probably buy the album in physical format, be that CD, tape, or vinyl. I'll link you to that in the comment section along with the iTunes and Apple Music link for it. Don't stream it because K-Rino is such a talented artist. He deserves more money than whatever streaming would pay him. So buy it either on iTunes or Apple Music. I don't use Apple Music, so I don't know if it's streaming, but buy it on iTunes or buy it in physical format. Support K-Rino. Just like you should support the Bald Adonis. Who sent me this spiffy t-shirt again. Just as a reminder. So Mightier Than the Sword, it's not K-Rino's best album, but when you have a rapper of K-Rino's ability, an album that I would put as average for K-Rino, so maybe a 6 out of 10 for his ability, is going to be a 9.99999999999 for the average rapper's ability. So if you take a rapper like someone like let's say a guy like Joyner Lucas, for example, and you take Joyner Lucas's best ever effort on a song, that would be about a 5 out of 10 for K-Rino. So this album surpasses, say, the best that Joyner Lucas is capable of doing. And K-Rino is consistent throughout the whole album with lyricism. Mightier Than the Sword is like I said, very well-rounded. It doesn't have any standout songs like some of K-Rino's previous albums. But it's a very well-rounded album. Certainly you won't be disappointed if you purchase it. It's not quite as good as some of the better stuff on his albums, his Big 7 albums that came out in November of 2016. It's not quite as good as the album he did with DLP of Beat Shack Productions, Raps and Beats. That album was a little better. It has better production than Mightier Than the Sword, but that album, the album with DLP of Beat Shack Productions, Raps and Beats, came out in September of 2017. So I'm not going to include it, obviously, as a runner-up for 2018. It didn't come out in 2018. Mightier Than the Sword did come out this year, I believe in April of this year, the third week of April. And it's very well-rounded, typical K-Rino as of the last 5 years or so. He has storytelling songs, political themes, street themes. He does a lot of wordplay on it. Afrocentric, pro-Nation of Islam themes. Science fiction theme kind of songs, supernatural, mystical, and esoteric kind of themed songs on there. Still hasn't fallen off, unlike other rappers. Definitely other rappers around his age. So he's 48 now, K-Rino is. Other rappers of his generation have definitely fallen off in the lyrics department, where K-Rino either gets better or stays as good as he was. When you look at his previous releases, he doesn't fall off. So he's not like, say, Black Thought of the Roots or Ghostface of the Wu-Tang Clan. He's not like that. He hasn't fallen off over time, and he still puts great effort into his material. K-Rino is coming out with 4 albums, I believe. So I think he's coming out with 4 studio albums all in one day. I think that might be on New Year's Eve. So in about just over 2 weeks' time. I'm not sure the exact day. I've heard that it might be on New Year's Eve of December 31st, 2018. He's coming out with 4 studio albums in one day. So I won't include those in 2018 because that's like the last week of 2018. So I won't count that. But this one, Mightier Than the Sword, it was kind of to get a K-Rino fan their fix in between his 7 album project, his collaboration with DLP of Beat Shack Productions, and then he did this one for the first part of 2018. That's to hold you over until he releases those 4 studio albums in one day in the last 5 to 7 days of 2018. I can't impress on you how much, when I say K-Rino hasn't fallen off, how much that means. Sorry, the audio might have blipped there because I turned the volume up on my phone. K-Rino hasn't fallen off. It's not just not selling out. He hasn't fallen off. He hasn't become less talented over time. He hasn't put less effort in over time. He still is a workhorse. He's still lyrically as good as he was 5 to 10 years ago or better. So he's still easily in the prime of his career. He could even get better than he is right now. But he's one of the very few rappers who just hasn't fallen off. There's some other ones. Self-titled, he mostly does features now. Self-titled of the Demigods and Army of the Pharaohs. Apathy, who I will be mentioning in a future video. Those guys haven't really fallen off. Cool G Rap, who I've mentioned in the past, and I will mention in the future in a future video. Cool G Rap hasn't really fallen off that hard. Ill Bill hasn't fallen off that hard. Vinny Paz hasn't fallen. He's changed his style, but he hasn't fallen off that hard. One Below of Binary Star hasn't really fallen off. Chino XL hasn't really fallen off, although he doesn't release much material, mostly features now. R.A. the Rugged Man hasn't fallen off. There's other guys. Diabolic, I know he's controversial. Some think Diabolic is a white supremacist rapper. He's just mostly right-wing or conservative, but Diabolic hasn't fallen off. 9, who just came a few months ago, came out with an album with the Snow Goons. 9, also formerly known as 9MM. He hasn't fallen off. Smooth the Hustler, who was featured on the 9 album, that on a track that of the album that 9 did with the Snow Goons called King. That album came out maybe 3 months ago. That's a very good album. I recommend that album as well, but it's not quite at my runner-up for album of the year. 9 is another example of a rapper who hasn't fallen off. Wise Intelligent of Poor Righteous Teachers is probably the last example of a rapper I'll give who hasn't fallen off lyrically. I guess I could probably throw in the guys and Souls of Mischief in there, and Slug of Atmosphere. And of course, I don't know how I forgot this, Ras Kass hasn't fallen off. He did the Joyner Lucas little light jab towards Joyner Lucas in about 2.5 minutes, and really, I don't think Joyner Lucas, a guy of who I mentioned Joyner Lucas earlier in this video, a guy of Joyner's limited abilities. He's not a great rapper, but he's not bad either. But he can't compare to a guy, an MC of the skill level of Ras Kass that's that well-rounded. So I imagine Joyner Lucas will not respond to Ras Kass. Most will say because Ras Kass is washed up or is a nobody or is underground, but it would be very ill-advised for Joyner Lucas to respond to Ras Kass with a track. He's just not on the level of Ras Kass lyrically. So about Mightier Than the Sword, I recommend you buy it, digital or physical format. It's in my opinion, the second best album of 2018. 2018 was a fairly good year for underground, alternative, and independent hip-hop. It wasn't the best year, but it was a decent year. And what made it probably a decent year, not just an average year, was the album that is the best of 2018, which I will mention in my next video after this one. That album alone made it a pretty good year. I've mentioned the artist's name in this video once already. And that album, which in my opinion is the best hip-hop album of 2018, made almost on its own 2018 a very good year for underground, independent, and alternative hip-hop. On the strength of that number one, in my opinion, best of 2018 album alone. Mightier Than the Sword is a solid runner-up. I highly recommend it. Check it out. buy it. My favorite personal song on Mightier Than the Sword, it's kind of like a little comedy song, K-Rino, conceptual kind of comedy song K-Rino came up with. It's kind of a comedy concept. It's called Bass Ackwards. I'll link you guys to the YouTube link from K-Rino's channel of the song. It's called Bass Ackwards. And when I think of again, the Bald Adonis logo, yes, Bald Adonis. It says mind, body, and soul right there. Wellness right there. Bald Adonis, Instagram. He's on Instagram. I'll link you to his YouTube channel on YouTube. Yeah. So the reason I enjoyed the song Bass Ackwards is it's a clever wordplay. It's not meant to be taken super seriously, but an interesting note. It kind of reminds me of retired heavyweight mixed martial artist and UFC veteran Brendan Schaub when I think of that song Bass Ackwards from Mightier Than the Sword on the K-Rino album Mightier Than the Sword. K-Rino I don't think this is a line from the song, but I once heard a guy say that Brendan Schaub is the type of guy that would sit on a television and watch a couch. Brendan Schaub is the type of guy, based on his clothing style anyway, be it like the leopard print jackets and the wearing a vest only with no t-shirt under it, or like a net-like vest. I've seen Brendan Schaub wear in the past with no t-shirt under it. Wearing, I don't know what that, leather pants, things like that. Wearing a gold Rolex from the 70s. Again, the animal print jackets. Brendan Schaub is kind of like the guy, kind of like the character from the song Bass Ackwards. Brendan Schaub, as someone said online, Brendan Schaub is a guy who would sit on a television and watch a couch. He'd sit on the television and watch a sofa or couch. He's a character, Brendan Schaub. He reminds me of the guy who's being spoken of in the song Bass Ackwards. Yes, Brendan Schaub. But the Wikipedia link to Brendan Schaub, I guess. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Brendan Schaub is now doing comedy and podcasting and sports interviewing. But he's a very, very, very unique individual, to say the least. So that Bass Ackwards is my favorite song. Bass Ackwards is my favorite song on Mightier Than the Sword. It's only about 3.5 minutes long, 3 minutes and 35 seconds long, but it's a very entertaining song. There's other good songs on there. Like I said, cop the album in digital or physical format. You won't be disappointed by Mightier Than the Sword by K-Rino. And I'm sure looking forward to the 4 full-length studio albums or LPs he's coming out with in the last few days of 2018. I think they all drop on the same day. I will be purchasing those. Those I am looking forward to. He's already set a record with in 2016, November of 2016, when he dropped 7 full-length studio albums. K-Rino's Big 7. He did that all in one day in November of 2016, broke a record for hip-hop music. 7 studio albums all released on the same day. So K-Rino, besides being easily right now the most lyrical and well-rounded lyrical hip-hop artist out there, he's the most prolific when it comes to releasing studio albums. I don't think At least when it comes to quality studio albums, I don't think anybody out there has more than K-Rino does. When it comes to the quality of them and the number, there's no one. There's some alternative and independent rappers that have released a lot of albums which are more like crappy produced mixtapes or subpar production mixtapes, but no one has more full-length studio LPs out there than K-Rino. And none of them, and they're not as consistent. And if they do, I don't count them. So like there's a Canadian rapper, Mocha Only. He used to be a member of Swollen Members. And he has a lot of albums, but they're just thrown together little things really that Mocha Only has. Another one is Jack Tripper, formerly known as Jack Progresso. He more releases like a few songs at a time. I guess you'd call them EPs or mixtapes. He may have more than K-Rino, but the production and lyrics are nowhere near the ability of K-Rino's. And Jack Tripper, he'll ask like $10 to $15 Canadian for a 4-song EP, and he comes out with an EP like twice a month. You get guys, some of the rappers associated with Conway the Machine and West Side Gun, Griselda Records, some of those, not them necessarily, but some of the other rappers like the God Fahim, or Camouflage Monk, especially the God Fahim. He'll come out with a mixtape or an EP every week, almost, or 3 to 4 EPs or mixtapes a month, and it's not anything of groundbreaking lyricism. It's not great quality, so I wouldn't consider the God Fahim, Mocha Only, or Jack Tripper anywhere in the league of K-Rino when it comes to quality and quantity. And that's not a good thing, but at least we have K-Rino. Every hip-hop head out there should be thankful that K-Rino's around to bless us, if you will, with the dopeness that he has, and do it consistently. So, yeah. That's my runner-up for Album of the Year, K-Rino, Mightier Than the Sword. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, most likely in the next 3 weeks, or the next 25 days, I will reveal my Album of the Year. And only that album, in my opinion, was able to surpass K-Rino's Mightier Than the Sword. And that album was so good, production-wise and lyric-wise, and even feature-wise, that it made 2018 a pretty decent year for underground, alternative, and independent hip-hop alone, just on the strength of the album that I feel is Album of the Year. So my runner-up, K-Rino, Mightier Than the Sword. Again, I'll put all the links in the comments section of my video. Check out the Bald Adonis's YouTube channel. He's on YouTube. You see the YouTube, kind of see it. Kind of see the YouTube logo there. Yeah, he's on YouTube. I'll link you to his channel. Subscribe, like his videos. He's like K-Rino on Mightier Than the Sword. The Bald Adonis is a very good storyteller, a very good wordsmith, if you will, and very entertaining. So they have that in common. So check that out. All right. Thank you, guys.